Good evening. This is BongaDadaBonga. Well, we're just a few episodes in January, and Happy New Year to you too. I am Dashanaba King, yours truly, along with Teresa Kemp, who will serve as our show commentator from time to time. We will bring on other show host and co-host from time to time, and we'll be featuring a very exciting roster of guests. We do have two to be in studio tonight. I'm not sure who they are at this moment, but we're just going to go ahead with the show because, hopefully, they will come into the studio. I'm getting a message from one that's saying they're having a problem with their link, but I'll just have to deal with that in a moment. Hello, Coach. How are you? In studio tonight,
Good morning. Good
we
morning.
have hello, my dear. We have as our co-host, expert health and wellness professional coach from the Republic of Panama, Rakaya Murphy, and our show feature for tonight is Bishop Jane Ngethi. Hopefully, she'll be joining us. And our special for tonight is doing a tribute to the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, i.e., his poster in the background. Okay. What I want to say is, I want you to stay tuned and hear what Bishop has to say to you tonight. Let me say that Rakaya is a mother of seven. Rakaya is a grandmother of seven, and she's been teaching Spanish now for about 35 years. Yes, and we will be offering her Spanish classes online at some point when Queen Mother Speaks uh, puts up its site. Okay, we will be having a training site, and when we do that, we'll be having um, courses coming into us from Rakaya. So let me just take a moment now and let them say hello to you, the people in studio. You want to say hello to the guest?
Yes, please. But
Yes.
my side is not clear.
Pardon?
I can't see it.
Good morning. My name is Glory Rakia Murphy, and I am an herbalist educator, coach, lifestyle change, diabetes uh, facilitator, peer support. I am so honored to be joining Dr. Queen Dashanaba on this endeavor, and prayerfully, we will all learn together and become better human beings globally. Thank you so much for
Hallelujah.
having me.
And it's a blessing. It's a complete blessing for me to have you because, as you know, our regular co-host Nana has been out, being a little ill, but also her daughter has gifted her with a new grandbaby. So she's busy dealing with those things, and I think they are very worthy of her spending time with them. And we look forward when she chooses um, to come back online with Bonga Dada Bonga.
Bonga da
Bishop,
bonga. Do you
Bonga
want
Dada
me
Bonga,
to? Do you
Bonga
want
Dada
me,
Bonga.
Queen Deshanaba? Are we gonna do? Do you want me to start with the what I'm supposed to do, or wait for uh the bishop to get back on?
Well,
It
we're trying to get her back in studio. Let's see if we
okay.
can get her in now. Okay, there she is. Okay, we have her in studio now. Now, Bishop, there's another person in the studio. Is that someone
Yes,
you invited?
yes, please. I was able to get like 3 ladies or four. Some were engaged on phone, so I never got them. But there are some people in the studio. There could be Benedict. There
Okay, well
could
then let's
be
bring their picture up right now. Let's bring them up right now.
yes, please. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, now this Rakaya, it's a blessing because when I spoke with Bishop earlier, we weren't going to be able to have the ladies on tonight. But looks like
Are
he's
Thank
been
these
successful.
are these the Mau Mau ladies?
They are members. They are members. They are daughters of the Mau Mau. Some are daughters of the Mau Mau.
Awesome.
Okay, so
Yes.
Welcome. Welcome.
we're gonna leave all of that to you, Bishop, in terms of what you want to talk about. All right, as far as that is concerned. Let me. We're getting a lot of comments already.
Thank you.
Wow. Thank you too. All right.
Nice.
So
Mm.
looks like we're gonna have a full house tonight, everybody. And Queen Mother, of course, is very, very, very happy about that. And as I was saying, is that our co-host tonight is also a 35-year Spanish teacher. So if you need to learn to speak Spanish, she's available to give you private sessions, and she can do that with you at whatever time. But at some point into the future, we will be having her Spanish classes online under the Queen Mother Speaks training module. All right.
Yes, please.
And as we say, Coach, we're just delighted to have you back on this show again as co host, working with us to usher in this program and unveil the story of a.
I am honored to be here with the bishop and
Okay.
the Mau Mau people. I would love to hear the whole entire evolution of the indigenous people of Kenya and also learn what, if anything, would the government, aside from reparations, would they be sharing their power with the Mau Mau people? That's the
All right. Well, we're
interesting
going to go through the
component.
program first,
And
and we'll get to that part when we
yeah,
get to that
yeah,
part.
yeah.
Someone in the studio has their telephone on. You must put it on mute. We cannot have that sound doing a live show. Please put your phone on mute. Please put your phone on mute. Yeah, put the phones on mute. Hello, we've got Miss Janice, who we've also now added to the stream. Hello, Miss Janet. Hello, Miss
Yeah,
Janet.
Can
How are
they
you?
hear?
Can you hear me?
yeah.
Okay. Some of you have your telephone on. Please put your phone on mute. Put your cell phones on mute. Do you hear
Put
the,
your phone on mute.
you've got to put your phones on mute.
Mute is on mute.
Otherwise, we'll have distractions during the show. We are live on the air. This is BongaDadaBonga, and I know that Bishop was able to make contact with these ladies at the very last minute. We did not get a chance to rehearse with them, and now it's not the time to go through setting them up. All of that should be done in advance. So we're going to go with what we've got right here, okay, right now. Okay, Coach, did you get the notes on the news for tonight?
Yes, I do. And
Let's start there.
okay, so I'm going to introduce Bunga Dada Bunga, a new
Yes,
platform for women's voices, a site
yes.
point, a space that thrives to amplify voices of women and survivors who have been historically silenced. Bonga Dada Bonga joins a growing list of organizations and supporters of women causes in countries across North America, Latin America, and the Pacific Rim in Africa. You will hear phenomenal, extraordinary, event, even heartbreaking stories of some of the most courageous, powerful, and inspiring women, girls, and some men too. You even meet each and every one of them is a superhero. And at Bonga Dada Bonga, we are honored and proud to share their stories with you. Why is Danda Bonga important? To dispel the myths about what women roles are, what women can do, and in fact, what women around the globe are doing. It is an excellent opportunity to generate visibility, familiarity, understanding, comprehension, realization, and support for women's aspirations, of which there are many, and promote awareness raising about women in many cultures, from a diversity of cultures in Namibia, South America, Ukraine, Israel, Kenya, and other countries. Thank you for tuning in to BongaDadaBonga, a new platform for women's voices, every Thursday live at 11 a.m. New York time /7 p.m. East African time.
Now, how does this thing, how does BongaDadaBonga work? The way the show works is we invite, once again, someone needs to turn off their phone or put it on mute. You are destroying my broadcast when you don't turn off your phone or any electronics in the background. Please turn them off because the people in the audience can't hear you when you do that, right? Okay. So how BD BongaDadaBonga works is we invite various women in leadership roles and influencers who moderate as either host or co-host from time to time. And those hosts will interview guests as we're doing tonight. And these guests are from a very colorful spectrum of journalists and campaign managers and bishops and women who are in politics. All right. So that's how we manage the show. So part of what we do on the BongaDadaBonga show is we are training women to host shows and to learn how to be on air. And the way
Yeah,
you learn to be
continuation.
on air is through practice. All right, ladies, if you don't turn off your phone, I'm going to end the show. I cannot have this. If you don't turn off your phone, I will end the show
Queen Mother,
because the audience cannot hear.
calm down. Somebody has their phone. Oh, she got off.
Okay, let's continue with the show. Okay, so for now, we're going to hear Rakaya today as a co-host for BongaDadaBonga, and she will be bringing us the headline news.
Thank you, Queen Mother. U.S. President Joe Biden was not always seen as interested in Africa. His first meeting with an African head of state at the Oval Office, Kenya's Uhuru Kenyatta, did not come until October 2021, 9 months after he took power. A few weeks ago, however, he sought to reaffirm Africa's central position in its diplomatic agenda, gathering leaders and delegations from 49 African countries in Washington under the U.S. African Summit. But the summit, whose first edition was held by Barack Obama in 2016, was always going to be seen as a catch-up bid to China's Forum on China-Africa Cooperation, FOCAC. Both Japan and the European Union, too, have similar summits, all pledging to help Africa. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken launched a new office in China, launched a new office of China coordination, informally known as China House, as the U.S. intensified pressure to counter growing Chinese influence globally. China House will ensure the U.S. government is able to responsibly manage our competition with the People's Republic of China, PRC, and advance our vision for an open, inclusive, international system. Our goal is creating China House is to help deliver on elements of the administration's approach to the PRC, the U.S. said in a statement. African priorities Early on, President Biden had said that Washington wants to engage with the continent based on African priorities. However, I'm I'm looking forward to hearing more from all of you about the issues about the issues and priorities that matter most to Africa and how we can deepen our cooperation, and I emphasize cooperation. He said at the session on Partnering on Africa's Union's Agenda 2063. The Agenda 2063 is a continental vision rooted in 2013 to see a more developed, more peaceful Africa by 2063. The vision targets more electricity, silencing of guns, more roads and bridges, and more education for the continent's children. Stuck to old line. President Biden said Africa will determine its own path on the priorities, but line the human right violators and poor governors won't get a seat at the cooperation table. The choices that we make today and the remainder of the decade and how we tackle these challenges, in my view, will determine the direction of the entire world takes in the decades to come. He told the session East African leaders William Ruto.
Excuse me, coach. Whoever is making that sound, please stop. Go right ahead, coach.
Told the session that included East African leaders William Ruto from Kenya, Samia Suluhu from Tanzania, Yoweri Museveni from Uganda, Paul Kagame from Rwanda, and Evariste Ndayishimiye from Burundi. Pardon me if I didn't pronounce your name right, my brother Burundi.
No, that's a country. Burundi is a country.
Sorry. The forum also featured officials of the African Union as well and U.S. investors. African voices, African leadership, African innovation are all critical to addressing the most pressing global challenges and to realizing the vision we all share, a world that is free, a world that is open, prosperous, and secure. The U.S. said conditional cooperation, but in Africa, bad apples have always had alternatives as the continent attracts attention from Russia and China. The U.S. regime of conditional cooperation could yet play catch up. Beijing, for instance, dispersed 153 million to Africa's public institutions between 2000 and 2019. According to official data, with most of the money going to infrastructure development in countries that have signed up on the Belt and Road Initiative, the BRI. More than half of a current infrastructure project on the continent are financed and or constructed by the Chinese. Beijing has a special envoy for the Horn of Africa, a position created earlier this year to spearhead peace efforts. Their version sorry about that. Their version, peace efforts. An official Chinese policy paper explains it's to send doctors and engineers, not guns, to the battlefields in Africa. All this, however, may matter only to the global powers, which is why Kenya's President William Ruto asked Washington to think more of Africa as an investment partner rather than a market for U.S. goods. Back to you, Queen Mother.
Thank you. And we know that Rakaya basically is a presenter when she's live on these shows. But with us here tonight, she's taking on the role of being co-host on Bonga Dada Bonga. And for that, Coach, we'd like to say to you, thank you very much for that great, great, great report. I just got one more breaking news, and that is Kenya Railways Corporation on Tuesday this week announced plans to scrap all cash payments for riding on the railway on the Kenya Railways. In other words, if you we recently got a new train. When I say recent, it's been a few years now that we have a train here in Kenya, and they're choosing as of February 1 to no longer accept cash payments. So you'll have to have some form of a debit card or M-Pesa or some other kind of way to pay. Let me say to you what that means. That means that this government has decided that they want everybody to be into technology. Because in order to be into technology, you got to have a phone, the right kind of phone, in order to be able to pay from your phone. So that's a very bold move, in fact, that Kenya is making, recognizing that they don't have internet connectivity throughout the whole country. I don't know about that. That's making it very difficult for the common man to be able to take that train. If they don't have M-Pesa, what they're telling them is they can no longer take the train. That's what that means. I'm not happy to hear that, and I pray that Kenya looks into that. It's like in America when they decided a lot of the bill payment was going to now be online. It was cruelty to a lot of the seniors because they didn't know how to get online. They don't deal with it that way. And it just closed them out. That's what we're calling the digital divide.
May I share something? In
Please
New
do.
York, in New York on the train, initially, they started out that you had to have a transit card. And what they were doing is when you pay to get in, you had to swipe your card to get out. I noticed that when upon returning back to New York, they have eradicated that swiping to get out. And it didn't go over so well because
Ah,
what if you drop your card? I don't know. It could be a myriad different reasons why you don't have a card to get back out. So in other words,
mm,
now you were going to be stuck underground in the subway. So I applaud technology and all this good stuff, but I'm really getting a little nervous because they're trying to bring this thing on full force. And I'm wondering what would be the backlash behind all of this. Like they're really speeding up, like globally, to get everyone on the broadband 5G uh, situation. And that's a whole nother story as it pertains to our health and as it giving off radiation into the atmosphere and poisoning
mhm.
the blood. So we'll talk about. Okay, go ahead, sister
Yes.
Dashanami.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now, we're now going to go to our guest in studio, which is Bishop, a person who I've recently met, who I've learned to love dearly. Rakaya, would you tell us a little bit about the bishop?
I
And
will
then,
have it.
Bishop,
It
you
will
can
be my
tell us about the other women in the studio.
it will be my honor and my pleasure to introduce Bishop for Bethsaida Apostolic Church in Kenya International Federation of Evangelical and Indigenous Christians. Welcome. Churches of Kenya, Vice Chair Lady, Ambassador of Peace, Association appointed Director Kenya and Eastern Africa, Director of Career Development, Africa, National Coordination of IMWE, Israel Manduki World Evangelism, National Women Representative of the Mau Mau Original Trust, and the list goes on and on. Bishop James' humanitarian work is underserved communities far exceeds or organizational work. Hear the amazing Jane and Gete Kenyiria speak. Welcome to BongaDadaBonga, and welcome my sisters.
Oh, all right. Very good. Very good. Thank you for that. Thank you for that very much. I don't know what to say. I've asked whoever has that noise to stop, but they don't seem to. I don't. I don't know. Does anybody?
That's okay. Let's keep
Yeah.
going.
No, we can't keep going because I'm getting messages that the audience can't hear.
Sister Jane, could you tell them in the language, in your language, what is the problem? Could you tell the sisters what is going on?
Unmute yourself. Thank you. Unmute. We can't hear you. Unmute.
Oh, you can hear me now?
Yes, Bishop, we hear you now.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. In the studio, I'm with my beloved sisters, Pastor Benedette Wanjiro Wanjema. I can see her at the backyard, and I can see Pastor Juliet Wangari Gadango. They are great ladies in the kingdom of God, doing great works in the kingdom of God. And as they say, birds of the same feathers fly together.
Ah,
So even if I call them, yeah, even if I call them at night or whatever time, they are there for me. And 99% they are there for me. May God bless them. I think there is also another lady from Mombasa, Bishop Janet. I don't know whether I can't see her at the background, but I can see these two. I thank God for
yes.
them.
Yeah, she's out of the studio at the moment, and when she comes back, we'll bring her back in.
Okay, I think I can see her
Yeah,
also. Bishop Janet from
yes,
Kilifi, Mombasa County is there standing in the
yes,
gap also for the ladies in Mombasa and for the Mau Mau episodes in Mombasa.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Very well. So, Bishop,
Yes,
what we
please.
wanted to what we wanted to do tonight, we're going to talk about Dr. King after we complete with the session we're having right now. Okay,
Yes,
so you
please.
invited the ladies into the studio tonight on Bonga Dada Bonga, and what subject are they going to be speaking on?
I told them we have the issue of the Mau Mau, and also there was the issue of Martin Luther King. Those were two issues that are in my mind.
Well,
But
we will.
all they know is that we have something about Mau Mau. For Martin Luther, it is me. You had told me about it, so I don't think they are whether they are prepared about Martin Luther, but still they can know who Martin Luther was. Kindly, thank you.
Okay, Bishop, we're not expecting them to tell us anything about Martin Luther King. We're going to be doing a tribute to Dr. King, and that will be me, you, and the coach. And we're
Yes,
very
please.
happy that they're here to hear that. So they are
Yes,
here with
please.
us to
Thank you.
share information, and you guide that conversation on Mau Mau because you know what should or should not, be said. You manage this part of the show with the ladies in terms of what they're going to share, or if you want them to share, whatever you like for them to do.
Once you ask them questions, they would answer.
You want
Okay.
me to ask them questions about the Mau Mau?
Yeah, they can answer. If they can't answer, I will answer on their behalf.
Okay, I got you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
I got you. So then
Where
now,
I can
Rakaya,
be able.
Okay, very well. All right, but let me just make it clear to the viewing audience that earlier we had talked about a conversation with women or descendants of the Mau Maus. And then I got a message that tonight would not be the best night to do that. So I moved away from that conversation.
Oh,
However, now that we are in studio, we have these wonderful women here, and we certainly want to hear from them. So we're going to just ask them questions. So let me start off by first saying thank you for being on the Queen Mother Speak show. All right. To let's see, I want to make sure I get their names proper. I want to say hello to Miss Sarah. Hello, Miss Sarah. Thank you for being on the show.
Yeah.
And also hello to Miss Juliet.
Thank you.
Thank you for being on the show. And you are
Thank
Kenyan by birth, and you've lived here most of your life, and your parents also lived here. So they were a hope alive, maybe even alive now, but during the time of the rebellion. Okay, were you
Yeah.
aware that your parent was a part of the rebellion when it was going on, or how young were you when all of this was happening? When the
Pardon.
Mau Mau Revolution was going on, ladies, were you teenagers? Were you young children? Were you aware that the war was going on?
I think Jane, you can explain to us because our phone is not clear.
oh,
Okay. Okay. I think
Our
most
phone
of
is
them
not clear. So
some of them are at the age of after independence, and so whoever suffered the Mau Mau praising and torture were the parents, not the ladies.
Yes, I know, but I'm
oh.
asking them how old were they? Or were they aware that the war was going on, even though
Oh
they were
yes,
children?
maybe I can reply that one. Thank
Okay.
you for inviting me to this topic, and I'm so happy to meet you people. Thank you, Bishop Jane, for inviting us. If I may answer that one, I was actually a very young girl, and I hear stories of what was happening those times.
Hmm.
Both of my parents, they were victims, and my father was in the forest, and my mother was working for the white settler. And actually, even their brothers were killed.
Hmm. Oh, did she drop off? Oh, I think she dropped off.
Or something have happened to her phone.
Yeah.
She'll get back.
Yeah, something dropped off. Okay. And the sister that's with us now, this what did she remember from being a child at that time?
There is Wanjema or Bishop Janet can speak. Also.
Um, Bishop, why don't you give us a little background
Okay,
about
let
the
me give
Mau
you a
Mau?
background. Yes, please.
Yes, give us a little background.
there's an error in the phone. There's an error in my phone that I can't hear you clearly. So Jane will explain to us how it
Okay.
is. Can't hear you
Okay.
properly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mother, Queen Mother, and Madam Rian. I just want to give a little background or history about the Mau Mau because we were not born, but we were given stories by our parents. Because I, for one, I never saw my grandfather. I was told he died in prison. He died in Kamete prison. My two grandmothers from my mother's side, she told us she was taken to detention camps, and therefore she never had the privilege to bring up her children. But before I go ahead, I would say the Mau Maus was a movement of African soldiers who are engaged in overthrowing the British colonial rule in Kenya. That is where I think we should begin to know who these people were. They were a movement of African soldiers or nationalists in the 1950s who engaged in overthrowing the British colonial rule in Kenya. These Mau
Okay, we're having some difficulties. As you can see, she has now left the studio. Chances are, as soon as her internet comes back, she'll come right back on. But for those of you who are still in studio, I want to say hello to Pastor Juliet. What else can you tell us that you remember, Pastor Juliet, about the Mau Mau?
Thank you. All I know is stories I hear and I read that there was that
Mhm.
movement, and many people, women suffered because their men were fighting in the forest, and their children, the women and children, they were outside there suffering, waiting for their husbands to come out. And the Mau Mau, we are told that during that time, no one was even allowed to move from one area to another. There was this thing, they were all put in the villages, and they were tortured there. No one could move from an area without a permit from the white. So all we hear their stories. I personally, I was not there.
Oh, okay, very
Yes.
well. And I don't know if Miss Serna, the other lady in the studio, if she can hear us. Ladies, do you hear us? Ladies, do you hear us?
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
hear. I can
Okay,
hear you. I can hear you well.
very well. Thank you very much. What can you tell us that you know of or about the Mau Mau?
Okay. What we know is that we were just hearing from our parents that there come a time where it happened to our grandfathers and our fathers. In fact, a brother to my dad was also a victim at that time. So women suffered, children suffered because of the Mau Mau.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you too. All right. During the time, so what age were you when all of this was going on? What age were you when you were hearing about this? Were you like a young girl or a teenager, or what age were you when you began to hear about it? Were you
I
5 years
was a
old,
youth.
or were you a teenager, or?
Yeah, I was a youth.
Mhm, mhm, very well, very well. Well, as we can see, there's a lot going on with the Mau Mau. They are in fact back in the news right now because they've opened up a Mau Mau trust fund, and Bishop Jane is a representative on that on that committee that's going to deal with the reparations. As is all now, the past administrations have dealt with this, and currently it is the new administration who are bringing forth that, along with what the old ones had done, that they are going to look towards giving reparations. So we'll be hearing about this off and on doing the BongaDadaBonga show, because this is very exciting news that the government has decided to do something about it. And we take strong interest in it because some men have already received reparations years ago, but they did nothing for the women. And my understanding, this time around, the women will also receive. So we're very happy to hear about that. And again, we want to stay on track with what's happening because the U.S. has a situation where reparations are concerned as well for African Americans. And who knows, they may be able to take a piece of, they may be able to take some knowledge from Kenya on how to do it because we haven't figured out how to do it in all these years. So maybe I shouldn't say that we have not figured out how to do it. What I will say is that they have not done it
They don't want to do it.
as of yet, the reparations, but there is talk on the table. Coach, are you aware that California, as a state, has decided that they are going to give reparations? Are you aware of that?
I heard something on the news about California deciding to pay reparations to the African Americans in California. And
Right.
a lot of people are excited about it because perhaps this may propel America to do the same. The
Yep,
purpose and
we'll
the
see.
reason of my being interested in Mau Mau, which I had not known about them, and I'm going to read up on them, is because I wanted to compare, contrast the relationship of what they suffered, their ancestors suffered for liberating Kenya, and why it took Kenya so long to acknowledge the Mau Mau, to compensate them for their pain and suffering, and i.e., what has Kenya, if anything, done to give them some power, to establish them in some positions, for the future, for now, the present, and the future. So money isn't everything. It's Kenya, the president of Kenya, willing to share some of the power with the Mau Mau for their pain and suffering.
I'm not certain if the people on the line can actually answer
I
that
know.
question, but please write that question down and we can continue to ask it as we move into the future
Yeah,
because
but
this
those
is
are
an
my two
ongoing case.
concerns. And the other concern was that we, on a humanistic level, the more we know, the better we're able to put this puzzle together,
Mhm.
and we're able to comprehend and globally together as one, uh, eradicate the inhuman inequality and injustice and economic enslavement that one set of people has placed on the global community. It is
Mhm.
just not fair. And so the more that we are able to come together and share our experiences,
Mhm.
then develop or create a platform in which we would become proactive and come up and devise some plans to resolve some of these challenges that faces us on a daily basis,
Yeah,
unnecessary
these
challenges.
okay. These questions are all very relevant, and I know we don't have the answers to them tonight, but we're going to
I
continue to
know.
talk about this. We're going to continue to talk about this. Moving on with the show, what we're going to do now is we're going to move into the next section of the Bonga Dada Bonga show, and that is where we're going to be giving a tribute to Dr. Martin Luther King. And so, what we've lined up for you today is that we're going to be giving a few of his quotes, and we included Bishop Jane with us in the tribute to Dr. King, but unfortunately, she is not in the studio at the moment, but we're going to continue. Pastor Juliet, if you would move over a little bit, we can only see half of you. Pastor. Pastor Juliet. Can you hear me? There you go. Yeah, move over a little more so we can see your face. Yeah, that's it right there. That's perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead right now and start with the tributes to Dr. King. Coach?
The U.S. recognizes Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. each year on the third Monday in January. Observed on Monday 16th in 2023, the federal holiday is set aside to pay tribute to the late civil rights leader's legacy. As is customary, banks, post offices, and other government agencies will be closed in observance of Dr. Martin Luther King holiday. An activist, author, and Baptist minister, King's inspirational speeches and peaceful protests galvanized the American civil rights movement, bringing injustices and inequalities suffered by Black Americans to the forefront of the public eye. In honor of his contributions, we've gathered some of the most stirring Martin Luther King Jr. quotes from historic speeches like I Have a Dream, which King delivered on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial on August 28, 1963, as well as his acceptance speech after being awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964. Though his life was tragically cut short in April 1968, RIP, King's achievements and words of hope live on, teaching new generations that love, freedom, and equality are never out of reach. Whether you use his powerful words in an Instagram post or simply for your own reflection, listen today, reflect on his words, and remember, Queen.
All right. I have a dream that my four little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream.
We cannot walk alone, and as we walk, we must make the pledge that we shall always march ahead. We cannot turn back. Dr. Martin Luther King, I have a dream. We can say that our feet are tired, but our souls are rested. Martin Luther King Jr., our God is marching on. Nonviolence is the answer to the crucial political and moral question of our time. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Nobel Peace Prize, 1964. Why is nonviolence significant? Nonviolence is a powerful active
Nonviolence
way of
is
working
significant because it is a
for
powerful,
human liberation.
active way for human liberation
Oh,
that firmly and clearly resists and refuses to cooperate with evil and injustice while attempting to show goodwill toward all and taking suffering on itself rather than inflicting suffering or violence on others. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. from the speech Strength to Love.
injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We're caught in an inescapable network of neutrality, tied
Mhm.
in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. Martin Luther King Jr., letter from Birmingham jail.
Mm. Okay, we're going to skip the next one. Read the next one for yourself,
I
Coach.
have the audacity to believe that peoples everywhere can have 3 meals a day for their bodies and education and culture for their minds, and dignity, equality, and freedom for their spirits. Martin Luther King Jr., Nobel Peace Prize, 1964 acceptance speech. It is
Mhm.
not enough to
And I
say
just,
we must not wage war. It is necessary to love, peace, and sacrifice for it. We must concentrate not merely on the negative expulsion of war, but the positive affirmation of peace. Martin Luther King Jr., The Quest for Peace and Justice. Queen?
oh, right on. Oh, that's so wonderful. I want to take a moment right now and share with you my story as a child of meeting Dr. Martin Luther King. First off, let me just be clear that there is the King family of Atlanta, Georgia, which is known globally throughout the world. And there is the King family of Birmingham, Alabama, which is also known, not as well, but also known. I am a member of the King family from Birmingham, Alabama. It was a group of ministers. It's interesting that Bishop Jane brought on other women to the show tonight who are women of the cloth, because for the most part, the people who led the movement, the civil rights movement, were men of the cloth. These were pastors and ministers of various churches throughout America. Being a young girl, growing up in a state called Alabama, Birmingham, Alabama to be exact, in our particular city in America, wow, Birmingham is known as the cradle of civil rights because there were a lot of people there who, it was a very, very, very segregated, a very segregated state. And there were a lot of wrongs done to the blacks who lived there. So the black people who lived in Alabama took it upon themselves to begin their own advocacy for civil rights. They did their own advocacy. As such, what would happen with a young girl like me? We go to school during the day. In the evenings, we come home, we do our homework, and we go to bed and do what our parents say to do. But when the summertime comes, we're usually out during the summertime. So during the summer times, when the civil rights movement were collecting people to become voters, they would come with these big buses and they would pick up people from their homes and take them downtown to vote. I, on the other hand, and other young people like me, we became babysitters. So when they would go and pick up those parents, we would be on the same bus and they would drop us at the parents' house. Then they would take the parents away to vote, and we had to sit there and babysit the kids. No problem. We didn't mind doing that. And so, what would happen in the evening time, I'm going to say maybe 5, 6 o'clock in the evening, we would all go to the church. The church in the Black community is a place to hang out. It really is a place to hang out. So we would go to the church in the evening, and on some of those days, Dr. King himself would be in town. And what I remember most is when we would be there in church, when he would come to us and he would say, "Children," there's always a children's corner in the churches. Dr. King would come to us and say, "Children, what did you do today for the Lord?" He would ask us that question. What did you do today for the Lord? And then he would come out of the pulpit, y'all, and he'd walk over to the section where the kids were seated. And he would look them in the eye and he'd say, "Young lady, what did you do today for the Lord?" And I would stand up and I would say, "Today I babysit 4 houses." And then the church would just break into, and they would say, "That's wonderful. You serve the Lord today. Very good." Then he'd ask the next child and another child and another child. And then he'd take that hand of his and he'd touch you on the shoulder. And he would tell you that God loves you. And so do I. And he would say, "You're doing great work, children, because you're doing the work of the Lord. If you weren't there to babysit, who else would be there?" So he made us feel like we really played a big role in
Special.
helping to get the parents to register to vote in the state of Alabama. And that's how I remember him from that incident. And that happened a lot because they would always come to encourage us. And the entire summer, Okay. We were busy going from house to house to house. It was fun to me. But first, before you could go to the church and participate in the civil rights struggle, you had to do your work at home. So, whatever you had to clean up at home, whatever you needed to do with your sisters, or whatever your chores were, you had to take care of that first before you could go to the church and wait your turn to get on the bus to go babysit. And for me at that time in my life, it was just a wonderful thing for a young child to do in the summer. I had no idea as a child what was really going on. But what I did know is that that we were being treated unfairly as a people, and that our people were coming together, and that this whole movement were led by men of the cloth. So, Bishop, you were not here, but earlier I had stated we've completed with our tribute to Dr. King, Bishop. And I'm sorry you didn't get in on that, but the hour is moving on. But I just wanted you to know that I'm very pleased that you invited women of the cloth into the show today, because Dr. King himself was a man of the cloth. My father, Reverend Floyd King, was also a man of the cloth, and it was these great men, Dr. C.T. Vivian, uh, John Lewis, who was a politician. Ooh, Dr. Woods. Who else can I remember? Andy Young. Ooh, there was a guy that they used to call Meatball. I remember as a child that they were so involved with the struggle. I remember when my father and a couple of my sisters went to Washington for the March on Washington. I was too small to go. I did know that they took off, and I wanted to go, but my mother wasn't having that. My mother wasn't having that, but she did allow the sisters to go because they traveled, up there with our dad. So pretty much, I am very indebted. And by the way, I also worked at Morehouse College for a while in my life, and I worked in a section of the college that was called the Martin Luther King Jr. International Chapter. For about 5 years of my life, I worked in the Dr. King's International Chapel at Morehouse College. That's also the place where his papers were held originally. Since then, the papers have been sent, I believe, to Stanford University. But at that time, Dr. King's papers were being kept at Morehouse College. I cannot tell you what a thrill it was to go to work every day, because I felt like I was making a contribution not only to my country, not only to my people, but also to the struggle. But to be there and get a chance to meet all of those people who came in to the chapel, all of those pastors and ministers, okay, and evangelists from around the world. I remember that's where I also met Bishop Desmond Tutu, right there at Morehouse College. All right. So that's my story. I'm going to go ahead and cut it short on meeting with Dr. King. But you also know, or you may know, that one of my sisters, Carolyn Louise King, integrated white high school. She was the first to integrate at the white high school in Birmingham, Alabama, in the city of Powderly. So as she became one of the few blacks in the early 60s who integrated at white high schools, our family got to know the Ku Klux Klan firsthand, because they knew where we lived and they would come in our community. And I don't want to go into that whole story. We can do that at another time. But I'm so glad that as a child, my family took a stand for civil rights, because I didn't know what it meant to take a stand for anything. And it is through that era in my life that I realized that I am the woman that I am today. Speaking up, bonga dada bonga, what's that about? Speak,
Bonga
sister,
dada
speak.
bonga.
It's about talking about what it is. And Bishop, we're glad that you're here tonight. I'm going to request of you, Bishop, from time to time to come on the Bonga Dada Bonga show when you have updates for us on the Mau Mau situation. Is that something you think we could do? Unmute.
Sorry.
Sure. We can't hear you, Bishop. We can't hear you.
Sorry.
Unmute.
Okay. You can hear now?
We can hear you now. Thank you very
O-
much.
Okay. I'm just saying sorry because I was, it went off and it went off until I've struggled for network until I'm back. I'm very sorry.
Oh, Bishop, it's
Yes, please.
okay. One of the things that Queen Mother has learned is we can only be in control of what we
Yes,
are
please.
in control of. And we don't
Yes, please.
control technology. We only
Yes,
use
please.
it.
Yes, please.
I know when we started this show, we used to cry when the
Yeah.
internet would act up or when it would go spiraling or the screen would go black. I would just cry and scream and feel so bad
Mm,
until I came to realize there's
yes,
nothing I can
please.
do about that.
In
So
fact, I've
Bishop,
uh, I've really missed the talk, but I thank God, everything.
well, that just means that there's something else in store for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
So,
means that
so
there's
you
Does
can
something
ask
else.
me
does
Something else in
ask me
store.
a question. You can now ask me a question. I see which I can answer, which I can engage
All
in
right.
if it's problem. Mm,
Well, actually, we've come to our time for ending the show today. We actually at the moment of ending the show, but I will just end the show by saying, yes, ladies and gentlemen, today we honor Dr. King, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., whose commitment to justice and equality is a guiding light in the continued pursuit of our beloved community. He used to call it our beloved community. And I remember that. Okay, so once again, um, I want to thank you for being on the show with us tonight, Bishop, as our guest. And Bishop, thank you for the extra work that you did to invite those ladies to come in. It really makes sense to have a practice before you come live on air.
yes. Yes, please.
Yes, we didn't get to do that. And guess what? It's okay.
Sorry.
It's
Sorry,
no,
because
no.
it has really also interrupted.
Yeah,
Mm,
I want you
it
to
has
get
also
what I'm
taken a lot
saying.
of.
Yeah, in the future, we'll always do our best to have practice before we go live on air. But I know
Yes,
what
please.
you were doing was trying to live into making sure that we had some women from the Mau Mau, which you did do. Okay. So now, Bishop, do you have anything that you want to share in regards to the Mau Mau? And then after that, we'll end the show because we have reached the sixth. We have reached the 8 p.m. mark.
before Bishop does that, can she give us an email or something where we can communicate with her in terms of people are saying they have questions they want to ask her?
If they have questions they want to ask, they need to put their questions on facebook.com/Queen Mother Speaks, and we will send the
Mhm.
questions to her, and she
My
will
email.
respond, and
Mm.
we will post them online. She's given us she's answered a few questions for us already, which we will post, but I didn't want to post them until Bishop had given me the okay. Yeah.
My
So,
email
Bishop,
is
excuse
uh,
me.
yes, please.
What we like to do is to have it come through the BongaDadaBonga show.
Right.
Yes, yeah, that's what it is.
So if,
I shall give
yeah,
it
I
unto
didn't.
you. I shall give
I
it
don't.
unto you.
We're not giving out your personal email address. If they have questions, they can post them, and then we'll be happy to give the answers. Let's see here. Here's a question. Okay, if you have questions, all you have to do is to say this question is for Coach,
Right.
or this question is for Queen Mother, or this question is for Bishop. And trust me, when the questions come, we will pass it over to them. You see, because this thing is being talked about right now, one of the things that Bishop shared with me is we don't want to talk too much about it because we don't want to jeopardize it in any way.
Right.
And I hear that, Bishop. I hear that, and I understand. And I thank you for being on the show. I thank you, Bishop, for your honesty. But Queen Mother wants to do everything she can to make sure that we don't jeopardize anything. All right. So when you're ready, you will bring us reports. And I'm just going to call them the Mau Mau reports. And as you being on that committee, get more information and you are at liberty to share it, we'll be happy to hear it. All
You're
right.
just
We'll be
very.
happy to. Yes, we'll be happy to hear it.
Mm.
Any, if you have any questions for Rakaya, same thing. Just post them. Just post them. Pretty soon, we're going to be giving you a link to Coach because Coach does a class every Tuesday online, and it's for people who are suffering from diabetes or people who want to make sure that they don't get diabetes. So every Tuesday at 7 p.m. East Africa time, I'm sorry, 7 p.m. Uh, New York time.
Eastern Standard Time, New York City.
Yeah, Eastern EST, Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. every Tuesday. She has a online workshop for diabetes. Okay, and we're going to be posting that regularly on the BongaDadaBonga show and the Queen Mother Speak show because we want people to start tuning in to themselves and know that they are in control of some of the things that occur in their life. And we know that diabetes is an issue of food, exercise, and diet. And so, coach is there to guide you through it. You'll have other women in that who'll be on that particular show who'll be talking about what they've done, what is try getting more information about what they need to do. So, yeah, yeah, Sarah, thank you so much. I look forward to being with you and talking with you. So, we're going to go ahead and end the show for tonight. And I just want to give a big apology. I want to give a big apology because when the show started out, I couldn't hear because people had all of that noise on. All right. And for whatever reason, when we said turn it off, you know what I think? I think they didn't understand. I think they just didn't understand. There's no reason to keep it going. Right. So I just think they weren't hearing, or maybe sometimes people don't know how sensitive sound is. You know, you can have a radio 3 rooms away, but guess what? An online show will pick it up. So I want to apologize again for the beginning. We do everything we can to bring you a professional show, but sometimes humanism takes over. Sometimes humanism takes over. And so we have to learn how to just deal with that. Coach, you did a great job as a co host, co anchor tonight. We'll be working some more on this. And again, I thank you for tuning in to Bonga Dada Bonga.
Dalabonga.
Bonga Dada
Bonga,
Bonga.
Dalabonga.
Bonga Dada
Amen.
Bonga.
Amen.
Bonga Dada Bonga Dada Bonga Dada Bonga. Bonga Dada Bonga